Well, I am arriving at the Fugan Harbor, ready to head on a little one-day trip over to Green Island, spend one night, come back tomorrow. And as you can see, people are starting to get ready.
So heading to the ferry, it's about a 50-minute ride from Taidong over to Green Island. I think a little choppy on the water. On the way there, it was a little choppy. On the way back, not so bad. I think I only saw about one or two people getting sick on the boat ride, which compared to a ferry I was on in the Philippines is nothing. That was much worse. So here we are coming into Green Island, the harbor there. This is my first look at Green Island, and that's the main road, as there is really only one road that goes around the island. It's about 19 kilometers. A couple roads shoot off of it, but for the most part, it's just a one track that goes around the perimeter of the island. Right now I'm walking to the hostel, checking out where I can get a scooter, which is right there, and here I am. This is what I'm going to be using for the next 2 days. And this is one of those roads that shoot off the main road to go over to the Lighthouse, which you can see in the distance.
Well, that is my butte for the day. Taking this bad boy around the island. And we just got here to Lighthouse. Check it out.
Here is the White House and some buildings, offices that are around it. And moving on, Green Island is an interesting place. It's basically a volcano island. And on the right here, down the road a little bit, is the prison that is still open and used today. Here are these two people I saw earlier. They walked the whole way around, it looks like. But yeah, Green Island was originally, or for a while there, not originally, but for a while, was a penal colony. A lot of political prisoners were sent here during the White Terror period. But back there, we just went past the prison that is currently still active. And for a while there, it was said to have the gangsters and the worst people in Taiwan were sent to that prison. But apparently, over the past couple years, that has been changing. But the feeling of Green Island is an interesting feeling going around, because there is all the history of political prisoners who were sent here to basically die during the White Terror period, which started late 40s, early 50s, 20th century. Basically, the KMT, when they came over or retreated from China to Taiwan towards the end of the Chinese Civil War, basically they were executing or imprisoning people who spoke out against the government or who were potentially favoring communists. So during that martial law period, the White Terror period, a lot of what they deemed as political dissidents, independence activists, intellectuals were sent here. And this is the memorial wall of prisoners and people who died here during that time. And a lot of names. And it kind of reminds me of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., where it's just a wall with names on it. So like I said, going around the island, it is an interesting feeling. After this, we'll go to the Human Rights Museum, which was an old prison, which, when it got closed, turned into a museum, which is open to the public to tour, with a lot of historical information. I like history, so it was interesting to me. Some people who don't like history might not find it very interesting, but it's fascinating to see how things were in the not too distant past. So here we are, just around the corner from the memorial wall is the prison, which is now the museum. Now on the walls there are lots of factual boards, historical information, which if you want to, you can pause to read. I'm not going to go through all the details on them, as that might bore a lot of people. But if you're interested in that, you can pause it, read it. Some interesting stuff. And this is going back to the main part of the prison.
Special observation and medical room. Up here, solitary confinement.
And this is the solitary confinement ward. Some rooms bigger than others. And in the auditorium, it's now basically a historical boards around the outside. Like I said, you can pause to read these if you like, giving information on the different eras and different prisons. There were 2 prisons on Green Island back in the day. And this kind of goes through the history of that. There's also a prison in Hong Kong, in New Taipei City, which is funny enough where I used to live, and had no idea that prison was there, and didn't know that until I went on this trip to Green Island, and I read about that in this room. So moving on from the auditorium, this is the exercise room, and then the next place we'll go into is basically the cells where the prisoners stayed. The rooms seemed kind of big, but they were not single-person suites, that's for sure. There were multiple people in each room, and they have it set up here where it kind of gives you an idea of what it would have looked like, as there are cardboard cutouts of people in some of the rooms, showing there are about 10 to 12 people in a room where there is one toilet, which you see right there, and the bathing facility in that little area, and there'd be people sitting around. Down here is 2 padded rooms. For people who needed that at the time. And again, like I said, there are historical boards all over explaining a lot of the history. It's quite fascinating. And here's one of those rooms where they made the cardboard cutouts to give you an idea of what was going on in these rooms at that time. It's a lot of people for a single room, single bathroom, single toilet, I should say. At most times there were upwards of 1,000 people in this prison. And the other thing they did in this prison, it had a lot of propaganda painted on the walls and around the prison for the prisoners to see. So as we go down here, we'll see a wall that has been faded over time, but from looking at pictures in the past, this wall was much brighter paint, basically telling propaganda. And now we moved on out of the prison to check out some of the areas. This is where prisoners would basically come off the ships and walk into that prison in this area. But going around, we'll see some more uplifting sights, as that was kind of the down part of the prison. One other thing, going back this road, we'll see the watchtower there. And outside that watchtower is what they call a pillbox. Pillbox is where they would put prisoners during high tide in here. And basically, as the tide came up, if they were in there and it got high enough, they would essentially drown in that pillbox. This is the 13th Squadron. In the prisons, there were 12 squadrons. And this is where people who died were buried. And so they named the 13th Squadron as a nod to the people who did not make it off the island. And as I approached Swallow Cave, there were two younger ladies, I guess taking their IG photos. I'm not sure if they know they're in my video, but that's okay. It was actually in this cave back in the day where prisoners would put on shows for the guards. So it's kind of a little theater. And I was lucky enough to be there on 2 sunny days. The glow from the sun makes this look a lot prettier than it would be on a cloudy day, that's for sure. And as we head away from the cave, going up to another cave, go past some wild goats here. There are different kinds of animals on Green Island. Wild goats are very common. I was hoping to see some deer in the wild. There's a deer eco park, which I did not go to. But I was hoping to see some out in the wild. I did see 2 on the second day, which you'll see later in the video, how I just missed them with the camera, because I think the camera noise spooked them, turning it on. But I did see plenty of goats, saw a water buffalo, saw a snake, squirrels, That's about what I saw. And the cave does go back there, but the camera does not pick it up very well.
Well, there's Little Big Wall, kind of replica, or so they say, of the Great Wall of China. Not exactly, but go check it out.
So as we head to the Little Great Wall, on the right there is an area called Haishenping, which is basically a volcanic crater formed. You can hike down to it, which then involves hiking back out. I did not go down there. If I was here for another day, maybe I would, but just with the time and getting around to see all the other things, I did not make that journey down to that beach. I did see some people walking down there. And this is Confucius Rock, which you can see out in the distance. I kind of point to it now. What a coincidence me being there, as the day I saw that rock and took this picture was actually Confucius' birthday on Teacher's Day here in Taiwan. The Zhaori Hot Springs is a popular place for visitors. It was closed the week I was there. I basically got there right after the busy season, so I think they were remodeling or cleaning up a lot of what had been heavily used during the summer. School had just started up again, so summer vacation was now over. And those hot springs out there do fill up when the tide rolls in, so you can sit out there in those springs when it's open. And this name translates to Sailing Ship Hill. There were a few shipwrecks over 100 years ago, 200 years ago, which is probably where that name came from. This piece of art is called Guanyin in English, and it's basically a bunch of driftwood that an artist put together and with some rebar.
Oh, what do we have here?
And there's the water buffalo and some more goats. This is cruising along the east coast, the east side of the island on the morning of my second day there. This is after I went scuba diving, which actually that video will be a separate video, as there were plenty of pictures and videos that I just did not fit into this video. So there will be a second video on my time in Green Island, which is the scuba diving.
Well, I had originally planned on doing this hike, but it looks like that's not going to happen.
So as you can see on the map there, that is the east end. I then rode around and came up the hill to go towards the west end. So on the way to that point, this is one of the roads that went off the main road up the mountains to go catch that trail. And as I got there, I saw a little friend on the trail. But unfortunately, for some reason, all of these trails were closed. And that is Mount Ame.
meters. I can go about 50, and that's it. There's some fat squirrels. They're eating good up here. But again, can't go hiking. Just for the squirrels. Just missed 2 deer. I saw them. By the time I got the camera on, they left. Rats. Trying to get that all 2 days.
So it's about time to head back, return the scooter, grab some lunch, and head over to the ferry. So I'm heading down the hill here. You can see the airport off in the distance there. There's the control tower. There's the lighthouse in front of you. And something I've been looking forward to eating while I was here was the flying fish. And as you can see, it was quite delicious. And of course, had my bubble tea.
45 minutes after we're supposed to depart, the ferry arrives.
So I hope you enjoyed my trip around Green Island. Stay tuned for part 2 with this scuba diving. Again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.